Susan. I'm so glad that you're here. Thank you for being part of this series. And we are here with our Make Money Your Partner online series, From Hustle to Holy, How to Transform Your Business by Igniting Your Divine Feminine. And I'm going to let people know about how great you are. So I'm going to share with people your bio. So Susan Hough, she is actually the owner and founder of Living Your Gifts, right? And Susan helps clients break patterns and realign with their true purpose. She's a spiritual coach, and she practices dedicating to helping people remove mental, spiritual, emotional, and physical blocks from their lives. And you also are involved with a beautiful nonprofit that supports with building wells in Africa, correct?
Africa and India, actually, yes.
And India, in India. Wonderful. So we're blessed to have you today. And I can't wait to dive right in and allow people to get to know you and for me to get to know you a little bit more in our interview today. So tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your background and where you grew up and some of your upbringing was like.
Sure. I grew up on the East Coast in Leesburg, Virginia, and loved my childhood, to be honest. I had a great childhood. It was very community centric. I had lots of other mothers, I would call them now that I know more, that helped me become who I am and to step into my divine feminine at a very early age. Like my mother was fabulous at women friendships and really taught me the value of what it is to really collaborate with women and to be more connected. And I also have my grandmother who lived in my home too as a child. So I was really blessed to be involved in quite the matriarchal kind of tradition at an early age. So yeah, I loved it. I loved my upbringing as a child. And it's a small town. It's not a small town anymore. It's part of Washington, D.C. now. So it's changed.
So that kind of leads, yeah, and it leads really to my next question. So in what ways did you see that your upbringing really supported you with where you're at today?
I think it had a large impact upon me. I think I've always kind of valued the divine feminine. I think I was, like I said, in some ways unconsciously trained, even with my grandmother, who I can remember like little love letters that she'd get from her sisters who, lived 45 minutes away. But in that day and age, 45 minutes was a lot further than 45 minutes is now. And then when they would gather, they would be sitting around the kitchen table, and my bedroom was off of the kitchen, and I would get to hear them laughing and just enjoying and engaging in their coffee and their lives, and how they really supported each other and really held space for each other, even when it was difficult. And so I think early on, I got to engage in what it is to be with women more fully. My poor father was like the only man in the house because I had an older sister. So there were a lot of women in my home. And my parents always brought in people from other places too, to kind of broaden who we were. My parents kind of had a revolving door. If somebody was struggling, they could stay in our home. So I, at a very young age, learned a different dynamic of what community could look like.
That's beautiful, because most of us aren't exposed to that type of community, and knowing that there are people out there, you may not directly know them, but they're willing to accept you and take care of you. And it doesn't need to be somebody that you know, like a family member, right? And so how beautiful that you were able to give people, a space.
I think I took it for granted at one point, but I believe that it did kind of make me go take a look at where my life was heading. Because then later, as I moved forward, I read a book when my boy was maybe two and a half, and my daughter was 8. And in this book, it was about a small village in West Africa where the women and men would gather when a child was coming into the world, right? And this baby would, then the mother would go into a trance, and the baby would speak through the mother's, what its gift was that it was bringing to the village, and what the child needed to nurture that gift. And when I read that, I was like, something sparked inside of me, because at the time I already was a social worker. I was already working with teenagers. And I really did believe that everybody had a unique gift to give to the world. And that story awakened something so like tangible that I couldn't help but give that book to every single one of my friends and made them crazy, and talked about this book from West Africa, this woman named Sabon Fusome, who I had no clue who she was. And it made me get on the internet, find where she was teaching, and call a phone number that I got from South Carolina, where she had taught, and started ringing it. And every once in a while, somebody would answer the phone and say she's not here, and I'd be thinking, how can a woman who has 2 books out in the world not have an answering machine, number one? And number two is, where is she? Well, she had been in Africa. Of course, I didn't know that. And one day she picked up the phone and she just said, yes. And I said, yes, what? And she said, yes, I will do what you want. I didn't know what I wanted. And call my assistant tomorrow. And it changed everything, because her community in West Africa really is about being in collaboration, seeing that every person has a gift, being balanced in the masculine and the feminine, because everything they did in the community was, their whole democracy was one woman, one man from each element. And so it deepened this knowing that we had to get back in touch with community and both aspects of ourselves. So it just changed the whole trajectory of my life, and enriched me in a way that I'm honored that I got to be with her for as long as I was. So.
And I love that story. And, because of now knowing you, I've learned about her also. And she's a phenomenal human being. And the relationship that you two have shared is priceless.
The real deal. And so much the real deal that there was no hierarchy. She's like, my name means keeper of the rituals, and it's no more special than what you're here to do. So it was all about getting more in touch with how you're to serve. How are you to serve? Right. And not in being humble about how you're to serve, because I can't serve without you doing what you do. I can't do what you do. I need you as much as we need each other, right? And so that is, to me, what real divine feminine is knowing that we need each other.
Right. Taking the control away, right? Like that we have to do this on our own. And we're going to talk about that in a moment. And that's because I'm leading into my next questions for you, because, there's great attributes of both the masculine and feminine energies that no matter what gender you are, we have them. It's just a matter of aligning with them and coming into balance with them, like you spoke about, and there's also the wounded side of the masculine and the feminine. So we know that if we're too much in either one, we're just off balance. We're out of alignment, right? So it's really about coming into community with both masculine and feminine. And so, you do mention that your upbringing was around a lot of females and a lot of feminine energy, and this is something that you knew more of than probably more of the masculine side. But at what point did you even find, maybe even possibly find that you were operating maybe mostly from your masculine, if any, and those ways of being, or maybe that you were in an environment that you felt like you conformed to in a masculine environment within any of your careers? Did you ever find that?
Oh, I mean, when I was a single parent with my daughter, she was an infant, and I had to move back home. I had been married and moved back to my hometown. and was trying to re-engage in the work world because I had to. I needed to support my child and was doing it alone. And I went to work for a man who it was not in my background. I couldn't find anything at that time in social work. So I was struggling for a job and really like not knowing how I was going to feed my kid. Although I mean, I was lucky. I had parents around that babysat for me so I could go to work, but it was quite a struggle at the time. And I had to take a job in a clothing store. And the man was not the nicest guy in the world. Like he made me uncomfortable. And I felt small and I felt stuck. And I will never forget, like I was throwing my hands up in the air, like, what am I going to do? And this was before I had met Sabamfu and had a deeper connection to my own spirit. And I can remember just saying, I'm lost, and just having a hard day. And a woman comes into the clothing store and says something. She said, "How are you?" And I just burst into tears, like, I'm not good. Like, I'm not good. I'm not happy. This job, I'm having to work. And I'm being, I'm being kind of tortured in my job. He's hitting on me. And I said, I'm looking for something in my field and I can't find anything. And she said, "What's your field?" And I said, "Social work." She said, "Well, there's one at the mental hospital. There's an opening for a counselor." And I was like, "There is?" And she said, "Yeah, it's with adolescents." That was my background, adolescents. I was like, "Really?" And she said, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, who would I call?" And she said, "Me." And wow. I knew, and that it was like, I knew there was something about that made me start to even realize more how you can be taken care of and not even, and you're divinely taken care of, right? There's a divine intervention that occurred for me in that moment. And I could start to relax again in what I loved and not just doing what I had to do. There's a different energy behind, "Oh, I'm not a good salesperson. I wasn't meant to do that. I'm not good at it." But you do what you have to do at times. But there was something that when you speak your truth, or even don't hold your pain by yourself, and you allow an openness to occur of being real, it's like almost like you're divinely carried. And it was just one of those, it was magic. It was magic, really. We think magic looks a certain way, but that was magic for me. And so that was when I could relax again. And don't believe me, I'm a go-getter. I push, but I've also had to learn over time how to breathe and just accept and speak the truth about whatever it is that's in my space. So yeah, it was hard.
And the power of sharing, the fact that you had met this woman and actually shared with her. There's a lot of times we pass people by because we fear of whatever it might be, right? But that moment right there just shifted.
It did. And
your
I
whole
was so blessed.
Next chapter.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in what ways do you continue to nurture and ignite your divine feminine?
How do I continue to nurture and ignite my divine feminine? I think I never feel like I'm doing anything alone, if that makes sense. So I think part of igniting it is I run women's circles because I believe in women being together. But I don't run it in a traditional way where I come in with maybe a topic or something, but it is really about collaboration. It's really about joining in together and knowing that I need that other person's energy, and it builds. There's a momentum that builds. And don't get me wrong, I love men too. I think men have a strong place, but I think we as women need to get grounded. I think we've lost connection of what it is to be connected, and we became too competitive. And I will never forget I was at after 9/11, the year after 9/11, Omega did this huge conference in New York City, and Sabanfu was the keynote opening prayer. She opened up for Gloria Steinem, and I will never forget Gloria Steinem saying on stage that she had to one time really go strong and get the masculine. Like she had to really embrace that masculine energy, but she realized that that wasn't the way to go anyway. And to go to, she realized really what she had to do is find the balance. But she said, in order to be heard, I went to this extreme. And now I have to bring it back and get it into alignment of the balance. And then the magic happens, right? Because there are times we have to push through, but there's also times where we have to open and to allow. And just know that that is truly listening in a different way, or listening in the way we're supposed to, right? So
correct, right. And being connected, right? Being connected and really just being still and in our listening. And I think that tends to happen a lot in environments for women. They feel like they need to step into that more masculine, dominating type of role when there's such power in our feminine grace. So since igniting and aligning in your divine feminine and the masculine, what have you noticed has transformed in yourself and in your business or businesses?
I think at one point I used to try to think I was fixing people or pushing people. And I think that was a disservice at one point in my background, like that the more I pushed, the more something wasn't in balance completely. So I think now it's more like it's a dance, right? When you work with people, it's this dance, and that you don't push people, you allow people, you give them the space to open up. I mean, in some ways I was enabling people. I was wanting them to heal, so badly that I wasn't looking at what was really going on. I was more in my ego of wanting them to heal. And so once I could step away and say, wait, this is not about me. This is about how they're choosing to be in the world, how they need to be held. And I need to create a container for them to open to their divine feminine, their divine connection to spirit. And that's when magic started happening for me. Like when I was pushing and trying so hard, I wasn't really being as present as I needed to be for them and that they deserved, so that they could open to their healing. And I think Sabanfu gave me the gift of that. Like the best thing you can be for anybody is authentic and be yourself. That's it. And if you can line up with just being you and start to get really comfortable in your own skin, then you're able to move into just doing and being who you're meant to be on this planet. And then collaboration comes together and juices flow, and we can ignite each other's passion and bring in a bigger vision than we could by ourselves. And so, yeah,
beautiful.
I had to really work on that at one point.
Yes, I can relate. and it's really is being an authentic self. And it just, when we are aligned with our authentic self, we show up in the world so much differently, and it just feels good.
It does.
And then externally, it just shows up.
Well, good. And then you get to show up for each other instead of just showing, there becomes it's a dance, I think, that just occurs, right?
So what do you do in your business today to support women igniting their divine feminine and aligning their masculine and their feminine?
I do rituals with people. And as soon as this pandemic is over, I can't wait to do rituals in person again. I do it in many internationally and nationally, and East Coast and West Coast. So I can't wait to get back to that part. But I also do Zoom calls where I do groups on a regular basis, and I see individual clients and work with them individually. And I work with teenagers, and that's probably my nonprofit is probably my most exciting. It's not where the cash comes in, but I get to work with teenagers to create a project. I get to help them find their gift in the project, and I get to, hold space for them to create something that then raises money to put water wells in indigenous villages and also educate women and children. And that to me is magic, to watch young people step into their power and really ignites their need and their desire to know that to be of service is all we're supposed to be on this world. We're all here to serve and to do it together. And I love my teenagers, and I work with teenagers. I do a lot of work with young, from 15 on up as my kind of my favorite age. So yeah, I love it.
So much passion just exudes from you, and everything you do, it just feels so rewarding. And thank you for being such a contribution to our world and continuing to, live through your dear friend and mentor and keep her legacy alive. You have a new book coming out. Do you want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's called Walk. I can't wait. It should be out by Christmas. It's called Walking with Sabon Fu. And it is about, it feels, it's, how it takes a village to raise a child. Well, it took a village for me to write this freaking book, because writing's not really my thing, but it is, it's in honor of my dear friend, Sabon Fu. Like, I made a promise to her before she passed that I would write a book. And of course, I didn't know what the book was. I had started writing a book before she passed, but I didn't really get until she passed that it was going to be about her and I. And so it's kind of like a dance between her story and mine and how it interweaves, and about the elements and rituals. And it's just a sweet little book. If I were to say the biggest reason why I wanted to really write this book, and it's kind of silly because I didn't even get it, because I don't always get things until I move through it, is I'm going to be a grandmother. And I feel like in some ways I get to leave him a story that really matters to me, and to hand that down to my ancestors and then through my lineage, the gifts that I received from this amazing relationship that was such a soul connection for me. And I took a risk, and she took a risk with me. And because of that, I got to really step into being my authentic self. And so what my hopes are for people is when they read this is they can go in and listen to their authentic self and not be afraid to bring it out to the world, because we need people to bring it out to the world. And so that's kind of where I'm at.
Oh, Susan, beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. I can't wait to read it.
You're so
I can't wait
kind.
to get my copy and read
Don't
it.
get your hopes up too much. I mean, I hope people love it, but like I said, it's a heart book for me, for my dear friend. So yeah, excuse me, I get emotional.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful legacy you get to leave on. It's beautiful. You're speaking straight from the heart. I love it. That's what the feminine is all about.
It is, isn't it?
So how can people find you? And did you have a free gift for
I'm going to do a very sweet little meditation. It's Sabon used to tell a story that before you come to this earth, you go to the spirit office, and you know exactly what you're going to do when you're that star in the spirit office, and then you land here and you forget all about it. So I'm going to do just a sweet little meditation about that, and then you can go to livingyourgifts.com to find out about my business work. And if you want to hear about the nonprofit that I'm the president of, it's wisdomspring.org, and the teenagers that do wonderful stuff for that project, so called Walking for Water. So that's where you can find me.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much for having me. I so appreciate, love what the gifts that you bring out into the world. And I'm honored to be on this Zoom call with you, and to share a part of me with you and to know you even better. So thank you so much. I'm honored to be a part of this.
You are so welcome, and it is my pleasure and my delight, and I'm so grateful that you're a part of this series, From Hustle to Holy, How to Transform Your Business by Igniting Your Divine Feminine. Thank you, Susan. Have a wonderful day.
Thank
Bye
you
for
so
now.
much. Bye-bye.